It was my grandson Noah's 6th birthday. The house was packed. Kids were tearing through the living room, shrieking with laughter, plastic wrapping, crinkling as presents were unwrapped. The smell of buttercream frosting mingled with the noise of pop music and the chaos of running feet. It was loud, it was messy. It was a party. Vivian, my daughter, and her husband Mark were kneeling beside Noah, who stood proudly in the center of it, all dressed head to toe in a cheap night costume from the supermarket. He waved a plastic sword like he just returned victorious from some epic battle. Robert, my husband, was sunk into the couch, chuckling as he waved a little toy in front of Noah's face, making exaggerated whoosh and roar noises to get a laugh me. I was in the kitchen. The stovetop hissed and steamed behind me. I moved back and forth like a waitress on a Saturday night, chopping, sautéing, stirring, checking the oven. The kitchen door stayed shut, keeping out the noise of the party. Through that thick wooden slab, I couldn't make out the words, just laughter, always laughter. Mom, Vivian called from the living room. Don't forget Noah's favorite vanilla pudding. And hey, she added, I brought back some soybeans from Nashville. Can you use those in your baked beans and beef dish? God, I haven't had that in forever. Oh, and could you do a chicken pot pie too? Yours is better than any restaurant I've been to. I smiled faintly, but didn't answer. It was a hollow kind of smile, the kind that looks real if you don't look too close. Every dish they mentioned required hours of prep, marinating, slow roasting dough from scratch. This wasn't just a meal, it was an endurance trial. I sighed, wiped my hands, walked to the door, and called out, Robert, I've got way too much going on in here. Can you come wash this cut of meat for me? The laughter outside didn't stop. No answer. I called again, louder still. Nothing. I waited, and then I gave up. I rolled up my sleeves, went back to the cutting board, and got to work 3 hours later. The kitchen looked like a war zone. Oil spattered on the floor, dirty pots piled in the sink, my hands red and swollen from endless chopping. Even my back refused to straighten fully. But before calling everyone to the table, I took a breath, smoothed down my apron, practiced a smile. I had news, something to share, something that might bring a little excitement of my own into the room. Earlier that morning, I'd picked up a scratch-off ticket at the grocery store. Just a whim. It's Noah's birthday. I thought maybe I'll get lucky. I'd scratched it while the stew simmered, leaning against the counter. Then I just froze. $10. Now $10,000. I scanned it 3 times, checked the lottery website twice, convinced it had to be some kind of printing error, but no, it was real. I'd won a $2 scratcher bought at the corner gas station, and just like that, my life cracked open a sign, maybe from the universe. You don't have to keep living like this. I'd planned to tell them all at dinner, make it fun, surprise them, share the winnings. Nothing huge, but enough for everyone to get a little something, a birthday gift for Noah, and maybe for me too in a way. But then Noah came barging into the kitchen. His face was scrunched in a frown. You didn't bring out the cake, he snapped. I don't want your food anymore. Before I could react, he grabbed a full cup of soda from the counter and flung it. I don't know if he meant to hit me or not, but he did. The sticky liquid hit my chest, soaking through my shirt. I gasped and stepped back, slamming into the cabinet. The cup hit the tile and shattered. I didn't even have time to say a word before Robert shouted from the living room, "Oh, come on, he's just a kid, don't make a scene." I stood there, dripping, my palms burning from the shock. No one went in, no one looked up. They were still eating cake, still scrolling on their phones like I didn't even exist. And that's when it happened. That quiet flicker inside me just died, like someone yanked the cord from a lamp. No light, no warmth. No more pretending. I forced myself to swallow the sting in my chest, pulled my expression back into place, and carried out the last dish, debating whether now might be the right moment to share the lottery news. But as I stepped out of the kitchen and approached the table, my feet suddenly froze. Sitting next to Robert was a woman impeccably done up. A polite smile on her lips, her eyes scanning the table with the ease of someone who'd been here before, as if she belonged. She turned her head, smiled at me, and said softly, "Hi, Charlotte." It took me a moment to place her face. Diana Harper, back when Robert and I were still in school. She was the girl he adored. He wrote her love letters, sketched her face in his notebooks. He probably would have etched her into the yearbook if they'd let him. Eventually, she moved away, got married, and we all went our separate ways. I'd only just seen her husband's obituary on Facebook not long ago. And now, here she was sitting at my table close to Robert, close enough to look like she'd already taken my seat, before I even knew it was up for grabs. Her arrival was too fast. So fast it felt like she'd been waiting at the door, just counting down until I finally stepped aside. I opened my mouth to greet her. Keep it polite, but Robert cut in with a sharp glance and an impatient tone. "What took you so long? People are starving. What the hell were you doing in there?" The words hit me like a slap. Not a greeting. Not concern, just a reprimand. As if the last 3 hours I'd spent sweating over every dish were nothing more than an inconvenience. Then he turned to Diana, carefully placing a rib onto her plate, and smiled a smile I hadn't seen on his face in years. Try this. Diana, she's not great at much, but I'll give her this. She knows how to cook, and just like that, I was transported into some alternate version of my life. One where I was the outsider in my own home before I could say a word. Noah stood up and yelled, "Grandma was sneaking food in the kitchen, that's why I'm starving." Vivian jumped in laughing. "Oh, really? And how do you know that baby?" Noah puffed up his cheeks with pride. "I saw her, she was eating all by herself and didn't give me any." My fingers trembled slightly against the edge of the tablecloth. The beans had been slow cooking for hours. The pie had to be hand-folded and baked fresh. The pudding had to cool at just the right pace. I hadn't had a bite all day, but to them, I was just the greedy one sneaking food behind their backs, too selfish to share, too antisocial to join the family fun. What hurt more wasn't the accusation, it was the lie Noah was starting to lie to, earn their laughter to gain their approval. Made-up stories. I pushed down the knot in my throat and said gently, "Noah, Grandma didn't sneak any food, sweetie, that's not true. I was in the kitchen because some of the dishes I didn't even get to finish." Robert slammed his hand down on the table, his chair screeching as he stood. "Are you serious right now? He's 6. You're picking a fight with a child." He glared at me like I was the one ruining dinner, like I was the one disturbing the peace. I looked around the table full of the family. Not one of them spoke up for me. My voice caught in my throat. I couldn't get a single word out. I was just about to explain when Vivian came over and lightly patted Noah's back, her expression edged with impatience. "Mommy's 6, he doesn't know any better." She looked at me like I was some unhinged woman lashing out at a child. Noah picked up on the shift immediately. His lips trembled, and then the tears came fast. He started sobbing and ran straight into Diana's arms. She didn't hesitate for a second. She scooped him up, holding him close like he was her own grandson, stroking his back and murmuring, "Oh, Noah, don't be sad. Don't cry, Grandma Diana's right here." She said it so smoothly, so naturally, like this had always been her place. I stood there, my fingernails digging into my palms, shoulders locked so tight it felt like I'd frozen solid. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words came out. In a whisper, I could barely hear myself. My throat clamped shut, and it felt like something inside me crumbled. I looked up at the table. Familiar faces, all of them. But the looks they gave me, blank, awkward, cold, made them feel like strangers I searched. Their expressions for something, anything a trace of empathy. But all I saw were furrowed brows and averted eyes, like they were waiting for me to just stop making a scene. Then Noah pointed at me through his sniffles and shouted, "I don't want Grandma anymore, I want Grandma Diana, she's nicer." I stared stunned and turned just in time to catch the faintest twitch of a smile on Diana's lips, subtle, almost invisible. But I saw it that wasn't kindness. It was triumph. A quiet, calculated victory. She cradled Noah closer and cooed, "Oh, baby, well, stay with Grandma Diana from now on. Okay?" Vivian chimed in cheerily, standing right beside her. "Yeah, Noah, let's not upset Grandma anymore." All right, in that moment, I felt like I'd been pushed out of my own home. Everything felt foreign, even the family. Photos on the wall seemed to mock me all those years. I'd wiped tables, mended shirts, baked cakes for birthdays now, just splinters in my heart stabbing behind my eyes. "Diana, eat before it gets cold." Robert's voice snapped me back. He'd already taken Noah into his arms and was pulling out a chair for Diana, speaking gently. "Noah, calm down. Let Grandma Diana enjoy her meal." I stood to the side, watching them. Watching him, and suddenly I remembered Vivian as a toddler. She was hard. She'd cry at every meal, loud, relentless, whole floors could hear Robert would always say, "Can you just take her out for a bit? I can't eat in peace." So I did. I'd rock her, walk her, feed her. And by the time I came back, he was done. The table was bare safe for the scraps. I don't think I ate a single hot meal that year. But now Robert knew how to hold a child. Now he could pull out a chair for a woman. Now he could be soft so he could do all that, just not for me. I sat down at the other end of the table and watched them in silence. I didn't say a word, but I think my face said everything. Robert scowled, slammed his chopsticks down on the table. What now? You're going to ruin Noah's birthday. That look on your face, it's depressing. Vivian jumped in. Mom, could you not? It's Noah's birthday. Do you need to make everyone miserable? Mark added his voice, calm but cold. You're here to see your grandson not star in a soap opera. Bad grandma, Noah mumbled, just loud enough. That's when I finally understood. This wasn't a family gathering. This was a performance, and I was the character they'd already written out of the script. I took a breath, a quiet one, and in that breath, I let go of something invisible and heavy that had been holding me in place for far too long. Robert, I said, voice steady and low, let's get a divorce. The moment the words left my mouth, the dining room fell into silence. All eyes turned to me as I had just detonated something sacred in the middle of dinner. Robert scoffed, first leaning back in his chair with a smirk. Charlotte, you're 67. Do you think you're still in your 20s or something? He paused, then curled his lips into a sneer. You say things like that and don't worry. People will laugh. Who the hell even cares if you want a divorce at your age? I turned to look at him, his hand resting casually on Diana's thigh as it belonged. There, he didn't even notice I was watching. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. If none of you are ashamed, why should I be? His expression snapped. He jumped to his feet, the chair screeching across the hardwood floor like a warning siren. Cut. The drama! He barked, trying to keep his voice low. It's Noah's birthday. I'm not about to fight with you here. Don't turn this into a soap opera. I let out a dry laugh, quiet, exhausted, and completely without feeling. I knew the moment I stepped out of the kitchen that this scene wasn't mine to play anymore. I wasn't the one causing drama. I was just the one who'd finally woken up. I got up. At 7 a.m, cooked 8 dishes, washed 4 pots, and somehow I was the one told I was taking too long. Noah lied about me sneaking food, and not a single person at that table stood up for me. This was never my home, not really. 40 years of marriage had turned me into someone who could be ignored, insulted, replaced without even the courtesy of a conversation. Vivian's voice cut in again, sharp and tired. Mom, do you really have to do this today? Aunt Diana is here, can't you just… not? Mark, standing beside her, added in his usual chilled tone. We came to celebrate, not to watch you unravel. Noah, still sniffing, mumbled, I didn't lie. I really didn't. Diana leaned in, preparing to speak. Noah didn't do anything wrong. He's a sweet boy. I stood up, my hands clenched before I even realized it. The plates clattered as my arms brushed the table edge. A few of them crashed to the floor, shattering into clean, bright shards. The sound sliced through the room like a siren. I held my breath, swallowed the heat burning through my chest, and said louder this time. Why is it always me? I cook, I clean, I plan your holidays, and you still sit there and spit on everything I do. I haven't even eaten. So guess what? Neither will you. Noah's face went pale. He immediately dove into Diana's arms. Vivian and Mark stood frozen, staring like they were seeing me for the first time. Maybe they were. I'd never let them see this part of me before. I was always the invisible one, the pleasant. Face the woman who never said no. I turned to Robert, my voice steady and clear. Listen carefully, Robert. I'm not joking. I'm done. I want a divorce. He stood motionless, jaw clenched so tight his lips thinned into a line, grinding his teeth. He growled, What the hell's wrong with you? You need to calm down. You just ruined the entire evening. Then, he pointed at the broken dishes. Clean that up. I didn't move. My spine straightened like a steel rod. No, you all have hands and feet. Why should it always? Be me from this moment on, I'm done. The tension in the room coiled tighter like a wire about to snap. I turned and walked toward the front door, my fingers brushed. The handle then. I heard the rapid thudding of feet behind me, and a small, desperate voice. Grandma, don't go. I turned on instinct. Noah was running toward me, a half-full mug of hot chocolate in his hands. The one Diana had handed him earlier. He ran. Too fast, his foot caught on the rug. The cup jolted in his hand, and the steaming drink splashed forward straight across my chest. The near-scalding hot chocolate soaked through my clothes, searing against my skin. I gasped and slipped, landing hard. On the floor near the front door for 2 whole seconds, the room was silent. Then Noah froze and burst into tears, loud and shrill like a siren. I hadn't even recovered from the pain when I heard him wailing between sobs. Bad Grandma, I'm not letting. You leave, you don't love me anymore. His cup rolled to a stop at my feet, chocolate still seeping across the floor. My chest was drenched, my shirt clinging to my skin. Sticky, uncomfortable, humiliating. I tried to push myself up, bracing on the floor, but my hand brushed against Noah's leg and he stumbled backward, landing on the floor beside me. Crying even louder, Vivian rushed over and pulled him up, casting a sharp glance down at me like a slap in the face. Mom, he's just a kid? Was all this really necessary? You flipped the table, and now you've scared him into falling. I blinked in disbelief. She wasn't asking if I was hurt. She was blaming me. You really think he threw that drink on you? You're the one who stormed out in a tantrum. He panicked. What did you expect? I looked at her. My chest felt tight, but no words came. Then Diana approached. She crouched down beside Noah, wrapping him in her arms with a soft, practiced tone. It's okay, sweetheart. Let's get you changed. And this afternoon we'll go pick out those superhero Legos. You like how's that sound? She carried him to the couch, gently dabbing his face and hands with tissues, soothing him with a smile so effortless it felt rehearsed, like a woman auditioning for the perfect new grandma role. And I just sat there on the floor, soaking wet, shaking, left out, like an unwanted prop in someone else's family portrait. The pain wasn't in my skin anymore. It was in the realization that this place, this table, this room, these people had never truly had a seat for me. I slowly got to my feet, my fingers still, trembled, but my voice came out calm. Too calm. You know what I said? I'm actually glad I'd already made my decision before all this. Robert turned sharply, impatience written all over his face. Charlotte, have you lost your mind saying this in front of a child? What the hell are you trying to do? Vivian. Mark and Diana stood off to the side, not shocked, not alarmed, just uncomfortable, irritated, like I was spoiling the show. Diana frowned. Charlotte, I know you're Noah's grandmother, but you can't take things so personally. He's 6. He doesn't know any better. I looked around at all of them, at the broken mug on the floor, at the cold leftovers still sitting on the table, and for the first time in years, I felt something sharp and clear cut through the numbness. Should I be apologizing? I asked, my voice steady, for what? For not shutting up and playing chef one more day? Or for finally realizing just how heartless this family has become? I wasn't yelling, but every word landed like stone. All of you like to pretend this is a family, but the truth is, you wrote me out of it a long time ago. Then I looked Diana straight in the eye. Your husband's funeral was days ago, and here you are sitting at the head of my table hugging my grandson, like you were born to it. If you're not embarrassed, then I'll be embarrassed for you. Her smile faltered. She opened her mouth to respond, but Robert grabbed her arm before she could speak. I didn't wait. I turned and walked toward the stairs. I'm going to change, I said, my voice as even as ever. An Uber is coming to pick me up soon. And as I climbed the steps, I added without looking back, this house, you all enjoy it, I'm done. Robert's face darkened instantly, like something inside him had been set on fire. He shot to his feet, and his wine glass slammed against the table, with a sharp crack sending a splash of red across the white tablecloth, blooming into a deep, angry stain. Who do you think you're humiliating? he hissed, jaw-clenched voice low and laced with fury. "You really dare talk to Diana like that? She's here for Noah's birthday, not to be your emotional punching bag." He started toward me one slow step at a time, his eyes burning with the kind of rage that had been simmering for years, restrained, calculated, and now teetering at the edge. "You're going to apologize to her right now." His hand lifted slowly, stiff, almost mechanical, like it didn't belong to him anymore, like it was deciding on its own whether to strike, but it never landed. Not because I flinched, because I didn't move at all. I stood there, chin-lifted, eyes locked on his, unmoving. The air in the room vanished. The silence was thick, absolute, like we'd all been swallowed into a vacuum. I stared at his raised hand. "Go ahead," I said, voice steady. "Hit me, might as well pay me back for all those years in one swing." His expression faltered. His fist hovered for another breath, then dropped limply to his side. He didn't hit me, but he lost not to me, but to the woman he thought would never raise her voice, the one he thought would always take it. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and said softly, "You want me to apologize? I won't. What exactly do I owe any of you this dinner? I cooked every dish from scratch, stood in the kitchen since dawn, and all of you just sat back waiting for me to serve, to clean, to take care of the kids, and now you expect me to bow to the woman who walked into my home like she belonged here." I swept my gaze across the room, given Mark Diana Noah with his tear-streaked cheeks. "This isn't me throwing a tantrum," I said. "This is me seeing things finally. This house hasn't been mine in a very long time." I walked to the entryway, grabbed my coat and wallet from the bench behind me. Robert barked, "If you walk out that door, you won't have anywhere to go tonight. Where do you think you'll end up? Don't kid yourself, no one else will put up with you." As I have. I didn't look back. My voice came, out coldly detached. "You're right. You've been incredibly tolerant. You've tolerated another woman eating my food in my house while my grandson calls her Grandma Bravo." My fingers closed around the doorknob as I opened the door. The evening breeze swept in sharp and brisk, washing over me like a baptism. Robert's voice followed, loud and performative, echoing behind me like a man trying to reclaim a stage she's gone. "No family, nowhere to go. Let's see how long before she comes crawling back." I turned around once, just once, to look at him. My eyes were calm. "So no need. I'm not coming back. Not ever." The door clicked shut behind me, sealing off the noise. The cold shoulders, the decades of sacrifice behind a final quiet snap, and I walked forward into the street, into the night. The wind pressed against my face, but I had never felt clearer in my entire life outside. I stood on the curb and opened the Uber app. The car arrived quickly. I slid into the back seat, leaned my head against the window, and exhaled a long, heavy breath. I hadn't realized I'd been holding in for years. No more waiting in the cold at the bus stop, no more standing in line, clutching transfer passes, just sitting here, choosing my own ride, my own route. For the first time, I felt how weightless it was to make my own decisions. By the time I got to the hospital, my chest was blistered and red, the fabric of my shirt stuck to my skin, every breath felt like it scraped bone. The doctor, a woman in her 30s with a calm, no-nonsense air, gave me one glance and frowned. "Ma'am, this is a pretty severe burn, hot liquid. Do you want us to contact someone for you?" I forced a thin, tired smile. "No. Need I live alone?" She looked like she wanted to say something else, but instead she just nodded and started gathering supplies. I lay back on the exam table and let her clean the wound when the alcohol touched raw skin. I sucked in a sharp breath, but the pain felt like it pulled something deeper out of me. Something old, heavy, buried. A chill from the air vent swept over the gauze, stinging and soothing all at once. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something healing. Not just the skin, but somewhere quieter, somewhere hidden. Half an hour later, I stepped out of the hospital into the amber dusk. The sky was dimming, the air cooler. I looked up, booked a room at a small hotel across town. It was an old inn in the historic district. $138 a night, Robert would have scoffed. Do you have no concept of money? One night here cost more than a week's groceries, but now I lay on a clean, soft mattress, freshly showered, dressed in new pajamas, buried in a sea of pillows, and for the first time, the feeling was mine. It was called belonging to myself. I unlocked my phone and typed into the search bar, "Getting divorced at 60s. What now?" The first result was a Reddit post titled, "My mom got divorced at 62. That's when her life began." The comments flooded in. "Do it, ma'am. It's never too late. You deserve peace. I'm 59 and just started over. Let's go, screw the timeline and get happy now." I read them over and over, and somehow, without realizing it, my eyes welled with tears. This was the internet's strange kind of magic. Strangers felt more like family than the people I'd spent decades serving, and suddenly I felt lighter, who said life couldn't start at 67. Even if I were 80, I could still rent an RV and drive up to Seattle to watch the snow. I could still learn to scuba dive in Hawaii as long as I was breathing. I didn't belong in a kitchen drowning in grease and resentment. I leaned against the headboard, scrolling, rereading until I drifted off, still thinking about those words of encouragement. When I woke, the room was dark. The clock read 8 bars sharp. My phone screen lit up over a dozen missed calls, all from Vivian. I didn't open any of them. If she wanted Diana to be her new mom, I'd let her have her. I swiped over to WeChat and saw Robert's name blinking at the top of my pin chats. He'd sent voice messages, several. I tapped the first one. His voice was sharp, furious. "Have you lost your damn mind? Embarrassing me in front of Diana. What do you think that makes me look like?" Second message. "You better be back tomorrow and clean up that mess in the dining room. Don't think I'm lifting a finger." I didn't reply. Instead, I typed just a few words, slow and steady. "See you in county court next month." That's where the divorce would be finalized. I'd already filed 28 days left in the cooling-off period. The phone rang again, this time a call. I hesitated, then answered Charlotte. His voice exploded like a grenade through the receiver. "You think you're someone special now, 67 and playing the divorce game? Grow up. Fine, go, let's see how far you get. You think you'll make it out there without the Collins name behind you?" As he ranted. I smiled to myself. Wry bitter, he truly believed that what he gave me was freedom, that the door he left open was an act of grace, not a dog flap meant for crawling. I hung up, placed the phone face down beside my pillow, and stared at the ceiling light, and in that moment, my heart, after all that chaos, after all that pain, was finally quiet that night. I didn't answer a single call. The lights were off except for the soft glow from the bedside lamp. I leaned back against the pillows and reached for a small, worn notebook filled with old photographs. The corners were yellowed with time-freezing moments of my youth. Me at 20 in a handmade cotton dress, standing beside Robert, smiling like the world was nothing but promise. But now I saw it clearly. That smile was just a mask away. To earn affection, to survive, to please a life that never once asked what I really wanted. I used to think I was simply too old for dreams. But the truth was that marriage had slowly rewritten me into silence no more. I would no longer shrink. I would no longer stay small. I glanced down at my phone. A news headline popped up. "Women over 67 are rewriting what it means to start over." I hit save, and in that quiet moment, I made myself a vow. I'm still alive, and from this moment on, I will live for me. Just as I put the phone down and was about to turn out the light, a notification slid across the screen. Robert had updated his Facebook status. It was a photo, Diana wearing one of his button-down shirts, cleaning up the dining room at my house. She was bent, slightly, smiling. She looked like she belonged there, like the woman of the house. His caption read, "Some feelings never change after all these years. I never thought I'd see her again. High school butterflies, 40 years later they'd grown roots." But this time he didn't need me to know about it. I let out a cold, hollow laugh. Then another notification popped up via Instagram photo. Her caption was, "Guess who just got a new bonus mom, just family vibes." I laughed out loud. "Family vibes, if that's the mom you want to be my guest," the comment. section was already on fire. Wait, what happened to his wife? OMG, is that Diana Harper from Franklin High? Robert always lands on his feet. Legend. I locked my phone and set it down beside me. The scratch-off ticket still lay in the drawer I reached. Over pulled it out and dialed the Oregon lottery line. A cheerful voice came through the speaker, winning numbers. Check out, ma'am, you've got 67 days to complete your claim. I exhaled long and slow. I had planned to share it college fund for Noah, a down payment for Vivin. Maybe something practical for retirement, but no. Not a cent they gave me. No kindness. I owed them no generosity. The next day, I found a small apartment a little outside downtown, tucked into a quiet residential street. It belonged to a retired couple renting out their extra unit, $19.50 a month, with a tiny balcony and an open kitchen. I signed the lease and moved in. That same night, it wasn't large, but as I sat on the couch watching the evening sky fade to purple and orange, I realized no one here would lecture me. No one would raise their voice. No one would make me feel invisible for the first time. Everything had my name on it. The cable bill, the grocery card, even the YouTube account I created. I scrolled through short videos and watched women like me retired and reborn. A woman driving her RV solo across national parks, a 70-year-old filming the northern lights in the Alaskan tundra, someone learning to scuba dive in Key West, another sketching desert sunsets in New Mexico. My heart picked up pace. I'm going, I whispered. I'm going to see those places, but this time I won't be tagging along for someone else. This time the journey is mine. Robert and Diana had gone viral, that photo. Her wearing his shirt, bending down to wipe the floor in my kitchen, smiling like she'd been the lady of the house all along, had made its way across Facebook and TikTok. It started with his own caption. Some feelings never fade after all these years. I thought I'd lost her forever within hours. It was reposted in the Second Chances Facebook group for seniors. Then came the love story channels, editing slow-motion clips over soft piano music. Likes and comments flooded in like a tidal wave. True love wins. Always. She looks amazing. Is she really 67? My mom's their age, and still, waiting on her love story. This gives me hope he found his forever person just late. I sat on the edge of the small couch in my rental apartment, staring at my phone. Each well-meaning blessing felt like a knife twisting into the same place over and over, a silent chorus telling me, you were never the main character, not then, not now. I got up and walked to the mirror. The woman staring back had lines around her eyes and silver streaks in her hair, but I didn't flinch. She didn't look broken. She looked tired, but not unfamiliar. This wasn't the face of a failed wife. It was the face of someone who held up a family for 40 years and got discarded like furniture. A few messages popped up from Vivin Mom. If you don't come back soon, Diana's going to steal Dad for real. Noah loves her already. She'd even sent a laughing meme. With Diana's face on it, I didn't laugh. It felt less like a joke and more like a warning. The winner's already on stage. You just didn't see it. I didn't reply for years. Whenever I brought up divorce, they'd say, just wait for the kids. So I waited half a lifetime now that I finally asked for it. They say, at your age, you'll embarrass yourself. Of course, they were never afraid I'd be unhappy. They were afraid I'd stop sacrificing myself for them. I sat back down on the sofa and opened my laptop. In the search bar, I typed, starting over at 67 as a woman finding. Yourself after divorce, rebuilding family when the old one breaks you. The screen filled with article after article. She left at 70 and never looked back. I got divorced after retirement. Best decision of my life, how I found purpose after he moved. On I clicked each one. I read slowly and I hit save, and as I scrolled, something began to rise inside me, a voice. A small one at first, but clear. Maybe I have something to say too. Maybe it's time I told my side of the story. The part that was never. Posted the part that was never hashtagged. The part that belonged only to me. Robert and Diana were officially famous, that photo. Diana in his shirt wiping down my kitchen floor, like she'd always belonged. There was only the beginning. A local TV station invited them onto a talk show called Still Got It, a feel-good segment that spotlighted late-in-life romances. Every episode featured silver-haired couples finding love when they least expected it. I turned on the TV the night it aired and caught it right as it began. Robert was in a navy blue suit, his hair slicked back with styling gel, a touch of foundation softening the creases on his face. Beside him, Diana wore a soft lavender sweater and pearl earrings. Her expression was gentle, her smile composed like she'd spent her whole life rehearsing for this moment. The host beamed. Tonight's guests are a very special couple. Childhood sweethearts who lost each other for 50 years and found each other again at 67. Robert looked into the camera and smiled that tired, romantic smile of a man who'd endured life before finally finding peace. Diana and I were classmates in middle school. I had a crush on her back then, but I was shy, and my family was strict, so I never said a word. She had this floral dress I still remember, like it was yesterday. He turned to her, took her hand delicately. She was braver than me. She found me. She made this happen. The host's eyes glistened. So you were never married in the years in between? Robert hesitated, then gave a sheepish little laugh, the kind soaked in fake humility. It was an arrangement. Something my parents pushed for. We got by. But honestly, if it hadn't been for the kids, I would have left a long time ago. My chest tightened just like that. Decades of shared life meals, childbirth bills, arguments, raising Vivian, wiping Noah's mouth were erased in one lazy sentence. I was no longer a person, just a plot device, the cold, unwanted placeholder wife in a second chance. Fairy tale within 24 hours. The segment exploded online. TikTok edits hit the trending page with titles like, "They found each other again after 55 years. My heart can't take it. She's 67, and I'd still marry her. Wow. This is what love looks like when you nurture it like a garden." But before I even had time to process the broadcast, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Turns out, I gone viral too. Not for speaking out. Not for being the silenced woman behind the smiling man, but because someone had dug up an old security tape me arguing with a cashier over a mispriced item at a grocery store years ago. They edited it into a compilation on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. The title read, "Meet Robert's First Wife, the Grocery Store Karen." The footage was distorted. Pixelated, my voice came out high and clipped from compression. My face was red from frustration. Frozen mid-sentence, the captions were brutal. "Now this explains the divorce. Robert said they were just cohabiting. I see what he meant. She's got more rage than my mom on tax day." No one asked why a 60-some woman might be arguing over a few dollars. No one wondered if she had maybe spent her entire life budgeting down to the penny for a family that never noticed. And Robert, he launched a video channel at our golden years. In his first clip, he wore an apron while stirring soup. Diana stood beside him slicing vegetables. They played soft jazz in the background and titled the video, "Lunch with Your Favorite Silver-Haired Couple." The kitchen was mine. My countertops, my pots, my recipe for bean stew. The comments were a stream of worship. "She's so gentle you can tell she loves him. Grandpa is aging like fine wine. 67, are you kidding? I'm crying. True love gets a second shot." A few voices slipped through. "Didn't he have a wife? Kids, wasn't she raising their grandkid before they split?" But those were buried quickly under a wave of pastel hearts and couple goals. I sat at my rented apartment's dining table watching their video for the third time. I didn't cry, but I felt scorched, like someone had poured boiling water across my chest. All over again. They were turning love into lighting and filters and background music, and I didn't even get a name, just her that vague shadow he used to live with. I opened my phone and pulled up the photo I took at the hospital. My burn mid-heel, the angry red blister, the skin still tight and sore. I had never intended to expose anything. But now I understood, if I didn't tell my story, they would keep rewriting it without me. I had no ring light, no theme music, but I had the truth. I opened my laptop, dragged the burn photo into a new folder labeled Assets. This time, I wouldn't wait for someone else to speak up this time. I would tell it myself. I hadn't even found the strength to tell my own story before the person I once loved most delivered the final blow just when I thought the worst was behind me. I saw Vivian's video. She was sitting in the living room, Noah curled in her lap, the background. Familiar. The couch. The photo wall. The same frames I'd hung myself one by one over the years. She hesitated briefly before speaking, but then her expression shifted into that polished PR perfect tone she'd always been good at my mother. She's always had a strong personality that day. Noah just wanted to bring her a cup of hot cocoa, but she reacted really aggressively. He ended up getting pushed, took a while for the bruise to heal. Noah, like he'd been rehearsed, nodded solemnly. I don't like Grandma, she yells and throws plates. Diana, Grandma never does that. The comments came fast, biting and brutal, emotional abuser vibes. She looks like she'd be hard to live with. No wonder Robert left. She destroyed the whole family atmosphere. I sat on the tiny rental couch, phone in hand, reading every word in silence. I didn't feel angry. I felt gutted. None of them had been there. None of them saw the moment that cups spilled or who had burned. But with a few edited sentences, they turned me from Grandma to the aggressor. I clenched the phone, scrolling through short-form video tutorials, content strategy, tips, platform hacks, until finally I tapped upload video in the yellow light of the kitchen. I recorded a clip. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out clearly. Hi, I'm Robert's ex-wife, Noah's biological grandmother. I just want to say, not everything you're seeing is the full truth. I posted it. The views barely trickled in. Disappointed, I was about to close the page when a private message popped up. A user named @TruthMatters, Fate8 wrote, Ma'am, I saw your video. No one's going to find it unless you use the right keywords. Names, events, hashtags. Trust me. She attached a screenshot with a revised title suggestion. I followed it. I redid the post, changed the cover, and uploaded a new version titled Robert Collins, You're Playing the Hero. Maybe file the divorce first. I added a photo of my hospital diagnosis, a close-up of my healing burn, and a clipped quiet voice over, yes. I overreacted when the hot chocolate hit me. But you tell me after 30 years of being silent, serving, and shrinking who wouldn't break just once after being thrown out of her own home. Within 2 minutes, the video had over 10,000 views. 10 minutes later, it hit the local trending list. Second place, the comments started shifting. Wait, they're not even divorced yet. What kind of true love is this? Loving again is fine, but don't erase. The woman who came before, she posted her medical records. She's speaking with receipts. Of course, there were still critics. She admitted to pushing the kid, and we're supposed to feel sorry for her. I didn't argue. Instead, I uploaded a second post, photo and voice. Again, no filters, no music, a medical report, a photo of the healing wound, just me sitting under a dim floor lamp, eyes steady. I did push him, and if I could go back to that day, I'd control myself better. You think I'm controlling. You're right. I've spent 30 years controlling piles of laundry, kids' fevers at midnight, and dinner for 6 on a $10 budget. You think I'm aggressive because I argued over produced prices at the market. That money was the week's leftover grocery cash, and, in case you're wondering, no. It wasn't your father who earned it. I saved it. I scraped it. I made it stretch at the end. I even posted the address of the market, the vendor's stall number you wanted viral. You've got it. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. Robert, his second call since I announced the divorce. I watched the name pulse across the screen, let it ring 3 times before answering. I already knew what this was. He wasn't calling to ask if I was coming back. He was calling because the fire had finally caught up to him. I answered the call. Robert's voice exploded through the line, pure fury. Charlotte, take that damn video down. I pulled the phone slightly away from my ear, my voice calm and cold. I won't take it down. Everything I said was the truth. And in case you forgot, our cooling off period ends in 4 days. Once that judgment is filed, we're finished. Then I hung up. No hesitation. The comment section was still a battlefield. People were ripping into Robert and Diana, calling them fake, tearing into Vivian for selling out her own mother, even dragging Noah into the trending tags. But none of it mattered anymore. Not to me. I held tight to my winning lottery ticket. Just 4 more days, and I wouldn't just be cashing in a prize. I'd be turning a page on the last chapter of my life. To be honest, these past 2 weeks living on my own, they'd been the lightest, quietest, most peaceful days I'd had in decades. No one barking for dinner. No one interrupting my thoughts. No one judging me for haggling over produce, as if that made me less worthy. Just as I was about to put my phone down, another unknown number lit up my screen. It was Diana. Her voice was still that same soft, sugar-dipped tone. "Charlotte, I know I might have done things wrong too, and I don't want to make excuses. But could you please consider taking down the video? It's really been hard for me." I smiled. She always knew how to weaponize fragility. I remembered 7th grade. She'd lost an eraser. Didn't say. A name, just started crying and stared at me. Then she softly whispered, "Charlotte, could you just give it back?" I hadn't taken anything, but that one tear turned the whole class against me. I should have known then. Diana never needed evidence. Just an audience. I didn't soothe this time. I just said almost lightly, "The video stays. You chose to play the part. Now live with the reviews." A few days later, Robert and Diana deleted their accounts. Vivian's so-called brand collapsed collaborations. Pulled out her comment sections, turned on her. She went completely silent. Then came the day of the divorce judgment signing county court. Robert and I had agreed to meet in the courthouse lobby. When I arrived, he was already there with Diana clinging to his arm. He looked at me, scoffed, and said with a sneer, "You think life gets better without me? To let me tell you, if you ever come crawling back, you're not getting in." I raised my hand and cut him off. "Relax, I don't recycle." The clerk called our names. We walked into the office, signed under the watchful eye of the court staff, and finalized the papers. The clerk looked up and said, "A formal decree will be mailed to both of you next week. Once you receive it, your civil status will be officially updated." I nodded, the invisible thread that had pulled me through 40 years of holding it together. Finally, it snapped. As I stepped out of the office, I caught sight of Diana and Robert standing off to the side. She whispered nervously, "How soon will we get the paperwork? Should we schedule our marriage license?" Robert gave her hand a gentle pat. "Soon, just a little longer, babe, then it'll be official." As he spoke, he turned and looked back just to see if I was listening. I was. And I smiled, still hot off the divorce ink and already setting the stage for their next act. So eager, so proud, I stopped by the exit and casually tossed out, "No rush. Just hang in there, you'll get my old job soon enough." Her face went pale. Robert didn't look so smug anymore. Diana opened her mouth like she wanted to fire back but said nothing. Maybe it was the public setting. Maybe she didn't expect me to be so calm. Robert muttered under his breath, "Ignore her. She's always been dramatic. I hate people who turn life into a show." I rolled my eyes and walked away. All that was left in my mind was one single thought. Men, no matter the age, really are the most self-absorbed creatures. And truth be told, not a single one of them is all that special. You're not special. I'd picked up that phrase online, still had so much more to learn. So much more life waiting to be lived. As I walked out of the courthouse, I opened my phone. The top comment on one of my latest videos caught my eye. "She's starting over at this age. I admire the hell out of her." I smiled just a little and whispered to myself, "So do I." The morning after I received my divorce decree, I booked a train ticket and headed to the Oregon Lottery office in Portland. I sat by the window on the Amtrak, watching the world rush by. Bridges, rivers, towns, flickering past like a celebration. Stage, just for me. For the first time, I felt it in my bones. The world was bigger than kitchens and laundry rooms. The Portland sky was a shade of blue I hadn't seen in years. The buildings were taller, the sidewalks cleaner, the people brisk and full. of purpose. I instinctively touched my hair, suddenly self-conscious about how small town I must look, then smiled to myself, because now I had the means to catch up at the claim center. I signed the check, sat through a tax briefing, and even agreed to a local TV interview in front of the camera. I wore the new wool coat I just bought and spoke with a calm. I'd earned the hard way. I'd like to donate a portion of the winnings to a women's shelter. There are still so many women in this city who feel trapped, like I once did. I want them to know there is a way out, right? Then and there, I wrote a check for $100,000 to Safe Haven Women's Network after the segment aired. People flooded my new social media account. This woman is the real winner. Divorced, won the lottery, and turned around and gave back icon. This is what female empowerment really looks like. Please, I beg you, start a podcast. I will kneel to hear your marriage story. Good luck vibes. Grandma, please drop your hair color and coat links, and they were right. I had so much more left to do. First up, new hair. I booked an appointment at a downtown salon. My stylist, Nora, was a silver-haired Latina in her 50s with an infectious laugh and a bold red manicure. She ran her fingers through my salt and pepper roots and asked, "You ready for something new?" I looked at my reflection, met my gaze, and said, "Ash brown, a little shine. I want to look like a woman who's walking into her new life." Before, I used the cheapest box dye I could find over and over just to cover up the gray so he wouldn't say, "You look ancient." Before, I never bought a single item of clothing over $50 because Robert would scoff. At your age, what are you trying to prove with all that color? But that afternoon, I stepped into the Burberry boutique downtown. No one rolled their eyes. No one said, "Do you need that?" I picked out the most expensive trench coat I'd ever touched. The saleswoman smiled as she folded it neatly into a bag. "Is this your first?" I smiled back. "It's the first time I've bought something just for me." I spent $5,000 to reward the woman who finally chose herself. In the weeks that followed, it felt like I'd found a brand new key to life, one that unlocked doors I never even knew were there. I learned how to take the subway, how to navigate Amtrak like a pro. Before my first flight, I obsessively Googled airport terminal maps, worried I'd stand in the wrong line or board the wrong plane or somehow slow everyone else down. But of course, I was overthinking it at the gate. A young airline employee looked up, eyes lighting with recognition. "Ma'am, I saw your story online. I hope you're really living your best life now." I smiled. Warm and steady, for the first time, I realized every step I took now. This was my storyline. I went to places I used to only see on TV. The hot springs of Yellowstone shimmered like spilled paint from the sky. The northern lights in Alaska weren't a filter, they were real, and the ocean breeze in Key West, when it hit my face, I finally understood 67 wasn't late. It was perfect timing. I started an Instagram account to share photos from the road under each one. I wrote a caption in the best English I could muster, reclaiming my joy frame by frame after my travels. I bought a cozy 2-bedroom house in a lakeside town where the air smelled like pine, and evening light danced across the water. The kitchen window framed every sunset. The balcony bloomed with lavender. I adopted a gray and white stray cat. Named him Charlie. Charlie didn't beg for affection. He spent most of the day lounging behind the curtains, chasing dust motes and sunbeams, but every night, like clockwork, he curled up by the door guarding my sleep, like he knew some hearts go too long without a home and need something small and warm to stand watch. I signed up as a community volunteer. Grocery runs for the elderly, hospital visits, baking for town events. At first, people called me the new Lady Charlotte, but soon I became our Charlotte. For the first time, I understood what it meant to be needed, not used. I loved these days. Quiet, simple, clean, like freshly washed linen days that didn't leave stains. Then the calls from Vivian started coming. At first, her tone was sugar-coated. "Mom, why didn't you tell us you won the lottery and that donation you could have bought a house in the city?" I replied coolly. "Oh, really?" And then she hesitated in the background. I heard Noah's voice. "Grandma, I miss you. When are you coming home?" I chuckled. "You've got a new grandma now, don't you? You shouldn't mix them up." There was a long pause on the line, then Vivian snatched the phone back, irritation bleeding into her voice. "Mom, you're 67. You shouldn't be playing social media games that money should be for Noah and for your security when you're older." I rolled my eyes. My crawfish had gone cold. I sighed, taking a sip of beer. "It's funny, every time one of you calls, I lose my appetite." I leaned back and said calm and clear, "Don't worry when I die. You won't have to fight over anything. I've already written my will, every cent is being donated." Then I hung up. She tried calling again later. I blocked her. Sometimes I peek at her public posts just for entertainment scrolling, like I would through a comedy feed. The internet has a name for people like that. Now digital pets. Those people who don't make a sound unless you click them. Yeah, that's what she is. Now, a few months later, I noticed Robert and Diana's videos had stopped updating. At first, it was just radio silence on their channel. Then someone on a local forum spilled the tea. Diana had moved back in with her sister, and Robert was showing up solo at community events. No official announcement, no heartfelt post, just a curtain dropping quietly on a performance that ended too soon. A few more weeks passed, and then, unbelievably, Robert called me. I stared at the screen for a second before answering on the other end. He cleared his throat, forcing a casual tone. "Hey, Charlotte, how have you been?" I stood by the kitchen window watching Charlie stretch on the sunlit balcony and replied, "You looking to film a sequel?" He was quiet. Several long seconds passed. Then came the line I knew was coming. I just thought, maybe there's still a chance for us. I smiled. "Oh, sorry, I'm in Alaska right now watching the Northern Lights. Signal's not great. Got to go," and with that, I hung up. Blocked his number because even digital pets, sometimes you outgrow them too. I don't need anyone to tell me who I am, what I should do, or whether I'm worth anything. I have my own little house. Charlie guards the door at night. My neighbors drop off extra muffins. I bake them apple pies. In return, I wake up when I want, I sleep peacefully, and I speak only when I feel like it. Most importantly, I finally retired from their lives.